YouTube is still the top for me. It's always been the top dog, and I don't think it's going to be dethroned anytime soon. It's always in circulation, so don't ever think that we have enough painters, because soon those painters will die, and we will need new painters to take their place.
It's a little tongue-in-cheek because every year is the year to do it. It's always time to take content seriously to get into it.
I made my first Twitter account 4 months ago for an assignment, and I have not touched it since. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to KinoCast. I am your intern co-host, Carson, and this is your boss co-host, Tanner, back again. Thank you for once again returning, and we have quite the topic today.
Yes, we do. Why this is the year you need to get into content of some sort, video content, whether that be YouTube, whether it be podcast, whether it be doing a video blog or a vlog, whether it's creating reels and TikToks for Instagram or TikTok. You got to get into it. It's time to do it.
But Tanner, I hear some of you saying, why is this the year that I need to get into video? Of all the years that have ever come before, and there's been quite a few, at least 2024 of them, why is this the year that we need to start in? Well, thankfully, we've got some answers for you. You want to take it away on that first?
You bet. Yeah. So the answer to that question, because I think that is the key. Like, what's so unique about this year? It's a little tongue-in-cheek because every year is the year to do it. It's always time to take content seriously to get into it. But I want to go through with you, Carson, today and kind of explain to our audience why really anyone that's listening to this probably has something that they could do on content and why they could benefit from it in their own lives. And since we're starting the new year, it's January when we're recording this podcast. It's a great time for new goals. We're starting our first podcast, second episode now. We've made an opportunity to get out there and do more content ourselves as a video agency. And we want to kind of convince others as well, January, or even if it's February or if it's June next year, it's always a good time to start. We're hoping whenever you're listening to this podcast that we're going to give you a little bit of a nudge, give you a little bit more empowerment to let you realize that you can start it. Carson, who do you think should be on YouTube or doing video content online?
It depends. I can tell you a lot of people who I know shouldn't be on, but I'm going to say anyone who has something they like to do or things they like to say.
Right.
And that they want to put that out into the open, out for the public to see.
Yeah. There's obviously going to be some who, whether in the witness protection program or felons or those who don't want to have their likeness be, there may be a small section of the world that just don't want to be online and shouldn't be online for other purposes, and that's fine and dandy. But for the majority of us, for most people that are, average, everyday Joes, there's an opportunity. And for those who can rewind their memories a little bit, a couple decades ago, before really the emergence of YouTube, for those who were on in the spotlight and on television and were doing content and making a living doing it that way, it was really only through being on a television channel or show, right? It was through broadcast, either on the news or you were an actor or you were a TV show host. And as you can imagine, Carson, and maybe I don't want to make myself seem that much older than you, but I mean, after the year 2005, there's something that's called YouTube that comes out, and suddenly anyone with a video camera and an internet connection can broadcast themselves and be seen all over the internet, all over the country and the world. And from that time forward, more than a decade has passed. In fact, now we're almost 2 decades now since the start of YouTube. YouTube's been acquired by Alphabet, Google, and it's become one of the largest platforms and one of our favorites, obviously, that, we're a little biased on that because we have content on YouTube. But from that time, or since that time, you don't have to be a newscaster. You don't have to be an actor on a television show. You don't have to be a host or a producer. Really, you could be a guy with a camera, or in your case, a Minecraft account, and there you go. Before you know it, you're able to broadcast yourself, and that's been the starting point. And since that time, we've had so many platforms come forward, right? So Carson, in your mind, what are some of your favorite platforms for producing and creating content.
I admit YouTube is still the top for me. It's always been the top dog, and I don't think it's going to be dethroned anytime soon.
Yeah.
As far as like talking quality content.
Mm-hmm.
But there are other platforms as well that are just so prolific that they give you the chance to create and engineer in such new and different ways, like Instagram Reels, Vine back in the old days. We'll give that one a 21 gun salute.
That's right.
Vine
is great.
Vine 2, which lasted for like a week, and then TikTok, the spiritual successor to Vine that no one asked for, but it happened anyway.
Yep.
And it's just gone from there. Like, I'm half thinking that like the next big social media platform is literally just going to be like a still from a video.
Yeah.
It's just going to get shorter and smaller.
Our attention spans are getting so limited now that it's just going to be, a literal frame, like 2 frames is only you're going to have. And then, or like, 2 stills that you're going to show, and that's it,
Every video is going to have like Subway Surfers or Family Guy on the bottom half of the screen, and the rest of it's just going to be the actual video.
It's right. Subway Surfer, or the video with the cars like going down the ramp.
That's
they always have now. Because we'd have to watch something in order to listen to someone, which is, heck, that's why on our podcast we're having a video version too, so people can see our boring faces talking, right? So our attention spans are shortening by far. Yeah, I'm with you. I love YouTube the best. That's my favorite one. A second one is probably going to be TikTok, actually. And I, for a very long time, rejected TikTok. I was not an early adopter, but I kind of regret now that it took me so long to get on the bandwagon of TikTok. Now, with our business, we do probably half of our work is TikTok-related content or similar content like Reels. And TikTok really has changed the game. That's probably another episode when we get really and dive into, short form and vertical content, because that really changed everything with, mobile phones and whatnot. Definitely TikTok is probably number 2, not because it's what I consume the most, but what I think is most viable for most creators. It really lowered the bar for a lot of people who are YouTube. You got like high television production, which is like probably the highest out there. And then just underneath that today, we have a lot of great channels on YouTube that feel like they're network shows. When TikTok and Instagram came along, it really lowered the bar even further to where now you just need your phone. And that's actually what you should be using on those apps is your phone, and not, higher quality cameras or fancy editing techniques and using software like that and having long form. It's literally just pull out your phone and make a 30-second clip of something and edit it on the app and post it. And so that's why I like TikTok, is because it is the leader. It is all the trends happen on TikTok first, then they trickle down to YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels. If you haven't considered TikTok, there better be a good reason for that, because it is it is the leader currently for trends for short form. Long form, YouTube is still the master, still the empire of YouTube, and that's not going anywhere. But YouTube even is starting to adapt to shorts, as you know, right?
No, I agree. And, I admit my own reason is that I consider myself to be a TikTok purist from whatever shred of dignity I claim to have left. But I can't deny that it holds an incredible sway over social media and content as a whole. I mean,
yeah.
Like you said, one of the biggest trends of TikTok when it first came out was just that everyone was taking TikTok and re-uploading it to Instagram and YouTube.
Yeah.
And it was just like, we're literally reusing this on other platforms. We love it so much.
And we could, like I said, that's another episode too, with like which platform. We'll go into a little bit about what you should do. And I hope to give a little bit of insight for those that are not sure which one they want to start with or do. We'll give you some demographics and just a high level idea of where we, again, take our information with a grain of salt. But we've been on most platforms, the highly considered ones. And there are some things that maybe if you've never started or never know anything about them, we'll have to share some of that, obviously. And I would actually love to recommend everyone to listen to Gary Vaynerchuk, who's kind of the TikTok guru. I think he has got a lot of great things to say about because every platform does have their own quirks, their own things about it that's different, unique, right? You mentioned, Carson, that YouTube is still like the long form format. TikTok is like the trend setting one, lots of unique stuff. And it's kind of like the cool, hip, young app out there for everyone, all the kids that use now currently. Maybe that will change. We'll see in the future. And Instagram, in a nutshell, I kind of call Instagram as like the high style. So if you're really into photography, you're going to be on Instagram, right? It's where it started. It was a photography app. It's kind of like the most polished short form app. So it's the things on there, at least on my feed. I don't go on there as often as I probably should as a media guy, but it's always high end. It shows the most exciting, most cool, breathtaking things of the world. And that could be as a matter of fashion or beauty or travel. There's a lot of travel stuff on there, and a lot of, when you say like Instagram filter, that's a real thing about what kind of content they like to show, is the filter, the idea. And that's kind of what people probably they don't like about Instagram. It's kind of a skewed idea of the world. I don't know if you feel that way, Carson, about about Instagram at all.
Let's just say there's probably a lot more Botox in those pictures than one might suspect.
Or Photoshop, or
yeah.
It's like the thing you hear, Instagram versus reality, where it shows like, this is what it looks like on Instagram, this is it in real life, in the real world with real eyes. And there's something to that, where Instagram has always been known as a little bit more polished or Photoshop than maybe the reality actually is. TikTok's the opposite of that. TikTok loves to be just raw, natural, as you are, out of bed, first thing in the morning, you flip on the phone, you just record something, you just kind of rant. Like that's what TikTok's kind of made its bones on. There is a little bit of a scandal that early TikTok, I remember when they got a lot of trouble, what I'm talking about, Carson, when they basically got in trouble because they were it got leaked, some of their internal documents of what people should feature and like what they were trying to focus on, what content. And it was like, basically only if they're beautiful people, or if they literally specified like, don't show people in wheelchairs, don't show overweight people, don't show. Yeah, it was
really
bad. It was really bad. And
wow. Okay, so you and I were definitely thinking two different things. I was thinking of like that giant furry war thing that happened when TikTok first came out. We were very clearly in two different camps of thought in that one.
I don't even know what you're talking about in that one. So that might be another episode to talk about the deep, dark side.
That's a good thing you don't know what I'm talking about.
Maybe we'll have to can that conversation and talk about like the dark side of some of these platforms, because I know with Instagram and TikTok, there's some not good sides of it as well. So what I'm trying to get at here is, if you're into doing something that's high style, like a lot of realtors are on Instagram, right? They show these really beautiful properties, or maybe you are a account that has really high quality confections or candy making, or things that are very visual, very eye catching, very kind of pops off the screen. Or like your travel, like I said, travel agency, or your Airbnb or hotel agency, or you just need to show beautiful, amazing, awe-inspiring content. Instagram, in my opinion, is a great place for that kind of stuff. That's where it kind of shines more than TikTok. And then for TikTok, I would definitely say TikTok is kind of the youngest demographic of all the ones we've listed. Technically, YouTube is actually the youngest because they have YouTube Kids, but TikTok is definitely where all the kids are. I'm sure if you have kids listening to this, they think Facebook's for dinosaurs, Instagram's for moms that are over 30, and TikTok's where all the kids are at, and soon it will be ruined. So with that in mind, just be aware, if you're looking to sell a product or you're looking to sell a service like your B2B, TikTok may or may not be a good spot for that. And Gary Vee actually says this in one of his recent videos for the start of the new year, that TikTok may not be the best place if you're selling business to business services, just because there's not a lot of business owners on TikTok. Now, there are plenty of entrepreneurs and young, successful individuals who are there, and there's plenty of entrepreneur accounts, but as far as your audience and your consumers are actually going to buy your products, your services, if you're a high-end SaaS company that's selling, 6-7 figure type of deals for enterprise business operations, TikTok may not be the best place to put all of your content at. In fact, LinkedIn is something that we at Kino Media are going to be putting more focus into. If you're listening to this on LinkedIn, welcome, because that's where we're going to be having these episodes, because that's where we feel like a lot of our audience is going to be on LinkedIn. So just bear that in mind. I guess the only other one we haven't mentioned as far as that I think could be something big in the future, besides LinkedIn, because people are talking a lot about LinkedIn, that it's like the new frontier for video content, but formerly known as Twitter, now known as X. Carson, do you have much experience with X?
I made my first Twitter account 4 months ago for an assignment for my class, and I have not touched it since.
Okay.
So
I got this one then, it sounds like.
Yeah, I'll let you handle this.
That's all right. Yeah, X is honestly, I think, another frontier that's untapped as far as building audiences, finding eyeballs, getting your products, your services, or your message out. because it was formerly a, for tweeting. It was meant for a text-based content, very short form text-based. It was like the TikTok of text, right? Before TikTok happened. It was they only gave you like 50 something characters, and that's kind of the fun part of it. It's just really quick snip shots of like your day and what's happening, and being able to follow celebrities that did that. That was kind of the calling card, and the reason why you had a Twitter was to follow what Kim Kardashian or Kanye West or name any politician or any major celebrity, what they're doing at any given moment in the day. And that was kind of cool to tap into that. Since that, Elon Musk has acquired Twitter and turned it into X. There has been a shift, and this shift did come even before Elon Musk came into the picture, but Twitter before did announce, along with Instagram, that it was going to become a video first platform, as well as with Facebook as well. So all the platforms basically are focused on video. The only example I can think of is there's plenty out there now happening, but Tucker Carlson, for those who like or don't like his politics, but they know of Tucker Carlson, he left Fox News, a traditional corporate network, to traditional media conglomerate, one of the biggest ones in the nation. He left them and he started his own thing on X. So it's called Tucker on X, and he's actually surpassed the viewership of Fox News on any given day for any episode he posts. He's getting millions and millions of views on there, and I'm sure he's not the only one. I'm sure on both sides of the aisle, politically or other topics and industries, you can post entire shows on there, hour-long episodes or longer. I do think X is one that you could consider. What it is exactly, I think it's going to be closer to YouTube as a competitor. I think it's going to be more long-form stuff and short form. We don't really know exactly what's going to be its focus or if it's going to be different from the other platforms, but it's just kind of like Twitter with a new skin and being very video focused. So don't forget about X. Currently at the time, I don't think there's any ways of monetizing content on there, but Elon Musk did talk about how he wants to monetize in general Twitter, now known as X. He wants to make X become profitable as a business and make it profitable for creators on X, which is exciting because I think there could be a lot of opportunity there. I could see them. Here's my take. I think I could see them doing live streams. I don't know if you remember Periscope. That was a thing they did for a little bit where you'd live stream kind of like Facebook Live or YouTube live broadcast, where you could just pick up your phone and start broadcasting wherever. And now TikTok does TikTok lives, and those get really big, a lot of views and whatnot. And they're kind of really focusing on that. I think a lot of these platforms moved away from live because they didn't find it very profitable or whatever, but X could move into that again and be kind of like the modern newsfeed of today on our phones, and video would be a big part of that. And the last thing we'll mention, to not forget about, those are obviously the easiest ones to get on because there's already infrastructure and an app that you can just post on. There are plenty of ways to get your message out, to make content and host it without any of those apps. Do you know of any I'm talking about, Carson? Any idea of one that we're doing right now? What we're podcasts, right?
Yep.
So podcasts, you've had some experience with that, but podcasts are kind of outside the app system. There's a lot of ways of publishing podcasts. You can do it on one of these apps as a video, or you can do the audio versions. Or there can be places you can host. I know a lot of clients of ours have made podcasts and just host on their website. You can get your own domain. You can kind of host your content or have broadcasting, and just do it and move traffic directly to your website. You can do webisodes. You can do podcasts, online workshops, webinars. There's a lot out there that I'm going to call not traditional video platforms, but there's a lot of viability in those as well. But we're talking primarily today in just those kind of like big 5 platforms we mentioned.
I'm just curious how we managed to get into a day and age where not only do our social media platforms now have what you might as well just call rap names, like the site formerly known as Twitter, and how we have such an abundance of these alternative options, and just how they are still so underutilized. YouTube, I feel like, is the only one that's really seen a good portion of its potential. And even then, there has been crazy things uploaded time and time again on there that I'm just wondering, dang, how did they think of this? Mm-hmm. And it's the same with all these different kinds of alternative media, podcasts, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. It takes a serious sense of creativity to be able to unlock the potential that's hidden there. But I feel like the rising generation really does have the ability to unlock that.
So yeah, it's just a matter of just seeing what, where you can end up. I mean, there's obviously a strategy of doing kind of like hit all of them and see which one takes off and then kind of focus more on that. Or you can go more, hone in on one that you're like, I feel like I love YouTube or I love X and I really could see my content fit in there. Or, you have another similar channel like or account on TikTok that you feel like you want to follow, and then you can go that way. We'll talk a little bit more about maybe what you should ask yourself to decide, because it is a little bit of like analysis paralysis sometimes. Where it's like, where do we start? There's so many options out there. There's so many types of platforms and videos and video formats and vertical and landscape and long form and short form and 2 seconds and 2 hours, and just like, where do I start? What do I do? So believe me, we get that too. And so when in doubt, just always ask yourself, who's my audience? That might help you kind of point that direction. What have I seen on these platforms? Is there anything similar to me? If so, can I piggyback off that? Or should I maybe create something completely new that hasn't been done before and be kind of a new wave maker in that, where people now follow me and I become the leading in that type of content? And obviously, how can I best utilize the platform's features, right? And just to reiterate again, in case you didn't get our sarcasm at the beginning of this episode, anyone should be able to create content online and do it in a serious fashion to where you can actually make a decent income doing that. I firmly believe that. And just to kind of go through, if this is you, if you're one of these categories of people, then you'll know that you're right for one of these platforms, right? If you have let's write down like this list that I've written down earlier. So if you got first thing, obviously, if you're looking to sell a product or a service, and that's kind of a no-brainer, then you need to be online, you need to be doing video. If you have a business or you're part of a business that has a marketing plan and you have some sway or shape. I know that we probably have a lot of marketing directors out there or marketing individuals, content, social media people. Even if you don't own the company, you still have a lot of weigh in, a lot of say. There are plenty of channels, of accounts that have been revolutionized businesses because of a social media person that makes a big deal about it. And that can really propel their careers. So if you're in a business that has a product or service, which is like everyone, right? Everyone's in a product or service business. I basically listed every single one. Then you should be doing video online in some form or shape. If you have a passion or a hobby and you're very good at it and you're really, really, like, let's say you collect toy trains and you know everything about them and you have every single collection or option available, you could very easily just plug that into content and make videos about it and immediately have a following, because there's other people out there that are very interested in model trains, right? Or toy trains. One example that I think is a perfect ideal for creating content. We just had a client. It was kind of a one-off random request for a video to be made. It was this family out in the middle of nowhere in Idaho had this living room for Carson, you ever heard of the Charles Dickens collections? For like Christmas figurines and collections that based on Charles Dickens novels.
No, I'm afraid this is new information to me. Do tell.
Yes. Yeah. So anyway, they basically every single year they've added to their collection. It's like you've probably seen them. They're like the kind of like the ones you paint yourself and you put them up and they have lights inside, like little houses and stuff. And you get little trees and train tracks and make a little town. Well, anyway, maybe I could send you some video, some photos so you can share for this, the video. But basically, they have this family has collected this for I think it's over 2 decades. They've had this, and they had every single piece that you could ever imagine. It filled an entire, 300 square foot living room of just stuff. It was amazing. It was really cool to see, and it's just hidden away in this little house. So I told them, I was like, you guys got to get on Instagram or TikTok and just start making little videos and show your display. We're helping them make some of those, but I think even without they wanted us to make a big video that like showcased everything and light it up and make it a little higher production. But I was trying to convince them, no, you don't need to pay us, a much larger amount of money to make videos. Like you can just get your phone out and I was just showing them, just start filming them and just post them online. I guarantee there's others that collect these same things and want to see what's being done right now in this little niche, right? So that kind of stuff, Carson. Hobbies, collections. If you're a collector, if you're into, whatever specific expertise you have in the world, and you just like love doing that. That's always what I think is a great sign that you could do content for it.
I gotta agree, and especially just how niche it can get. Because sometimes I forget that there's like about 8 billion people on the planet. There's bound to be someone out there who is going to like what you're making.
Right.
Let me give an example. My family is huge into sports, massive football fans. When the season's done, there's not really anything else that they do to kind of fill in that missing gap until the next season starts. I came home from my 2-year mission in Alaska, and they showed me their new obsession, marble racing. This random guy takes all of his marbles and he races them in this track that's like self-automating, so they constantly go around no matter how crazy
Uh,
it looks. And my family was losing their freaking minds. Like they were just cheering like someone just crossed the touchdown line, and it was just incredible to me how someone could have millions of views racing marbles.
yeah. Just kind of like satisfying kind of videos to watch and see how it interesting. Yeah. So like I said, if there's something that comes to mind, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I love doing this, I guarantee you, whether it's you're doing a how-to video, how to do it and to pass on the information, or if it's just satisfying to watch. I don't know if you've seen like people love to make things be made and do, whether it's like you're quilting or if you're into candy making, like the old fashioned way of like pulling taffy, and they have those cool ropes that like you've probably seen them, right, Carson?
Yeah.
I've seen like hundreds of those. My kids love watching those because it's just satisfying. It's just kind of mesmerizing to watch some of these things. So if it's visual in any way, or if it's something that's fun and satisfying to watch, you do it therapeutic in a way to watch someone like in their craft do something really well, then you have something on your hands. You could do that. You could make a channel out of it. And I mean, how cool would it be? Even I ask people this all the time, even if you were able to come to a point with getting a following and you start making money, whether it's through sponsorships or through ad revenue, imagine if you started making money to where it paid for your hobby. Usually that alone is motivation for people to do this. Like a lot of people I know say, I just do it. I don't make a ton of money. It doesn't pay the bills, but it allows me to kind of continue to do my hobby.
I gotta agree. I say that a lot, don't I?
Well, that's good. You need to. You better agree with me. I'm kidding.
Perks of having your intern as your co-host. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I will say a word of warning. Apparently, one of the big trends of 2024, especially at least on the YouTube side of things, is a lot of big creators are actually going into retirement.
Mm-hmm.
It's the funniest thing. They like all did it within like the same 2 weeks.
I've seen like probably 3 or 4 in the last week, honestly.
I only bring that up because you mentioned like it can pay for your hobby. You know, working in these special alternative medias, it can be fantastic, but it is different, and it is still an untamed wilderness. And so it really will require a lot of being able to allocate enough time to make that something that's actually working and is enjoyable to you, without also getting burnt out. And that's something that creatives deal with all the time, even us in professional settings like in our company or working with others.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So let's talk. Yeah. And on that note, I think it's good to talk about, to get people excited about wanting to get into this, to show you the best of the best options and the opportunities that's out there. Carson, you have an example or so you wanted to kind of showcase for basically, you know, when it goes extremely well and you get a huge following and you just completely change your life and that's your new full-time gig or whatever, and you just can do all this cool stuff. Who did you want to share for that?
Well, once upon a time, a long time ago, there was once a man from Sweden who started recording some videos and uploading them and whatnot. They were pretty ridiculous for what it was at the time. Normally it was videos of funny cats and whatnot, but this guy just started putting up videos of him playing games, and it was part of a movement that massively surged on YouTube into the whole subgenre of gaming and creating videos in that niche. And eventually he exploded to take over the platform. I'm pretty sure y'all know who he is by now. His name's Felix, aka PewDiePie. And he was the dominant head of YouTube for years on end until the great T-Series war. And then now we're in the era of Mr. Beast, and the scene's changed, but
And Dude
even
Perfect.
oh yes, and Dude Perfect. Yeah, just
Exactly.
like big scale productions that have completely just like changed everything that we've known about it. It's still evolving to this day, and yet he still lives in Japan now. PewDiePie does. He's raised a family. He has a kid, and he's trying all kinds of new different videos that he's making. So, you
Yeah,
know,
I haven't really watched much of PewDiePie at all, but I've always followed him as a creator because he was number one for the longest time. I think it was like
oh
over
yeah,
a span of a decade, he was number one. And for those that want to know numbers wise, they're estimating he's made his net worth's over 120 million with his assets,
Whew.
$7 million annually. He's still making on Twitch and YouTube through just posting his videos, which is a nice chunk of change to have. And that's huge. And I know Mr. Beast and Dude Perfect are well beyond that now. I wanted to show, because like everyone knows the bigs, right? Oh, well, I can't be because that for me, when I talk about the biggest, everyone knows they're not probably the next Mr. Beast. You're probably not going to be the next PewDiePie, who held that title for over a decade of number one on YouTube. Like, let's be honest, there's only one of those that can happen, and that's not the best thing to shoot for because it gets you discouraged if you're not close to that, which most of us are going to be far beneath that. But I do want to show some examples with you, Carson, and for the audience today. I'll share my screen too, so we all can see some of what they're doing. But there are those you would never expect make such great careers on doing these kind of videos. And the first one I want to showcase is this little obscure lady. Her channel's called De Mi Rancho a Tu Cocina. I'm not the best. I don't speak Spanish. I wish I did, but I roughly translated as "From my ranch to your kitchen," right? And it's literally just her. If you can see my screen, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's literally just her. I'll even hover over a couple of these. It's just her like talking about making, different classic Mexican cuisine and dishes that she had from her grandma or her family. It's very traditional. It's very, very simple. And in fact, if I go to like her most popular videos, 4 years ago, since 12 million views, it's not high. The newer ones are a little bit, you can tell she's a little bit more of a production budget behind it. She got some lights now. She got a little staging, but it's still like truly authentically her. But when she first started out, she had this cute little like clay oven and this little, iron top that she's like cooking on. And it's just so cool to see. And who thought, like, oh, that's cute. What does she actually do? What does she actually make? Well, I'll tell you, this gal is netting in, or bringing in around. Now she's getting close to 484 million views total. We're talking 6 million view within a month span of people watching her. She's now got 4.36 million, so 4,360,000 subscribers to her channel, and they're from all over the world now. She doesn't speak English. I guarantee she doesn't have a lick of English in any of these videos, but here she is. No one ever know who she is, but because of the power of YouTube and her getting into this like special, bringing you into her house, making you feel like you're part of her family and making these videos, she and her family, I'm sure she doesn't care about the money or anything, but I'm sure her whole family, maybe even her community, has been completely transformed from her channel that she's making. So you can be her, like anyone, like she can she be a Mr. Beast? Absolutely not. But she's got the techniques of classic Mexican traditional food. And I honestly want to watch her stuff because I love Mexican food too. So she does what she's good at, and she's able to gain a following from there. And I'm also going to share for those for TikTok, a little tell of a story of a man based out of our little Idaho Falls. That's where our company's based out of here. For those, go ahead.
Is this the cranberry juice guy I saw?
Cranberry juice guy you saw. See,
my
I
goodness.
talk about him. Everybody knows him, right? So for those who know of his name, his official channel is Dogface 420 Dogface 208. Not one really. It's not very memorable, but definitely a total G. Really cool dude. This video of him, I know exactly where that street is. It's on the roundabout going to the airport in Idaho Falls, and he posted this video of him on his longboard just drinking a whole, I think it's like a half gallon of cranberry juice, and he's just singing along to Fleetwood Mac. And for whatever reason, this thing went gangbuster viral all over the world all over the country. He was hitting it huge, and everyone was talking about it at a little Idaho Falls. He's probably the most famous person online from Idaho Falls, which isn't
That
saying that much.
is insane. I literally just saw this for the first time last night.
Oh, what?
And
Last night?
yes, last night. And I saw it, like, it was on Instagram and it was racking views. And I was just like, dang, this is a chill looking guy. I didn't know he was in Idaho Falls.
He's in Idaho Falls, man. And here's the crazy thing about his story. So he, again, I would love to have, his name's Gina Rodriguez, and I would love to have him eventually. It's like a big goal of ours to have a local guy on our local podcast here. But he got some big deals in LA. He was with Snoop. He was on ads with Snoop Dogg, and with, I think he was in like music videos. And because he was such a hot thing and everyone like loved the guy, everyone thought he was so chill. And he was kind of like a music channel. He just like would lip sync to different videos, whatever. So they had him on music videos, and he kind of, I'm sure he made his heyday in Hollywood, and then came back home to Idaho after he realized, I don't want to be out here. So he's back here in Idaho Falls after literally having the full world circuit, thanks to, TikTok, thanks to posting a single video that he did with his phone, went out on a skateboard, and the rest is history, right? Now, does that mean everyone can just go out there and do the same thing he did? No, like, it's definitely the reason why we talk about him, because it's such a unique story, and that's pretty rare to hit that kind of viewership and have it change your life like that. But the point I'm trying to make is, you never know. I mean, anyone can do this kind of stuff. And I think also I should say that Gina now has a major deal with, I think he's got his own line of drinks. I think now he got a big deal from Ocean Spray. He had a huge like sponsorship from them, and then now he's got his own product lines that he's selling, right? So
Wow.
it's cool. It's cool to see. So yeah, like, are you the next Dogface, PewDiePie, Mr. Beast? Maybe not. Most likely not. But there shouldn't be a barrier. There shouldn't be an idea of like, well, I can't do the X or Y and Z, and I can't get on there because what am I gonna do that's gonna be so special? And these guys didn't do anything that I would consider that's that special. It's just they put themselves out there in the right time, right place, and the algorithm picked them up, and they're able to consistently bring in that value for their audience.
Okay, now that's Tanner's takeaway. Here's my takeaway. My takeaway is get a clay oven, get some cranberry juice, and just vibe. Because, wow.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's the right takeaway. No. So last points we'll make, and we'll wrap up this episode. There's going to be some barriers, obviously, some things that I'm sure you're thinking about that. Even though we're trying to make it seem as easy as possible to start doing this thing, there's obviously going to be things you have to overcome, or some barriers to figure out. But to not be disheartened too much, because it's really, like, I really do believe anyone can do this. I really believe anyone can get online and build their business, or help another business, or to show their passions and make a living off of it, or at least help support those passions, if anything. Carson, in your mind, what, for someone looking to get on, do you think there's going to be, like, what would you say is the biggest thing that stops people from wanting to get on YouTube? Or
I'll be honest. The biggest thing that would have stopped me is myself, talking myself out of it. I literally remember the night when I like sat down, had a piece of paper, and I was just like writing out things that I'd like to do. And the thought just popped into my head of start a YouTube channel. And I could have had 1,000,001 excuses to not do that. And I think most of us can come up with quite a few of those. But if we get into our own heads, then nothing ever is going to get done. No one ever did anything good by psyching themselves out of it. It's the people who've gotten past that point and got started and kept going. They're the ones that have seen success. You know, the old adage, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Exactly. And I think there's gonna be excuses that you'll say, oh, I don't have a good camera, or I'm not very tech savvy, I don't have money to buy, or I have a really busy job that keeps me from doing what I love.
Yeah.
Like you said, it really comes down to yourself, to stop yourself. And you're totally right. You're not going to be able to have the opportunity to put yourself out there to make a change in your life unless you do it. To still talk people into it and to console them on this, there are lots of resources online. So like for the technology thing, or the how-to thing, you don't have to hire a big agency or a little agency like ours to start a YouTube channel or get on TikTok or Instagram, you can go online and there's a plethora of great channels. Channel Makers is a good one. Sean Cannell with Think Media, definitely recommend watching him. There's so many, and there's like so many more that I'm not even remembering the names of, but you can literally say, how do I post on YouTube? And they'll be like walking through it. It just takes time. You got to watch, you got to get educated, obviously. But the biggest thing is just to have the inner idea, like, I got to do this thing, whether it's creating a new podcast or a YouTube channel or get on TikTok. You got to like have that burning desire, and then you're going to be able to get through to the ending. At least the first goal should really be to post your first video, whether it's podcast or video or TikTok, just to get past that like idea of like to be in front of an audience worldwide that could possibly be seen by millions of people. Like once you get past that, like that will freak you out. Did that freak you out, Carson? It didn't really for me much.
Sorry, you kind of cut out. What's going to freak me out?
Like being in front of like possibly having your face in front of a million of people. Like did that ever freak you out when posting stuff?
I admit, not really. Mostly because I never thought it would get to that point. But talking to like a camera, that's, let's be honest, that's easy. It's easier than a lot of people make it out to be. There's no one standing in like an audience in the room while you're recording anything. And it's not that hard. It's really not. Again, we're psyching ourselves out about it.
Yeah, it all comes from like within us. But the biggest things, obviously, besides it's not technology, everyone has a smartphone or equivalent to a smartphone, or if you don't have a smartphone, you still probably can get a $10 camera or $20 camera on Etsy or whatever. Like I said, the technology thing you can learn online. There's plenty. You can listen to podcasts like ours where we'll go through the details. Here's what camera you can get, or here's how to consider, using white balance, or how to use your phone better, or consider lighting. Just the things that the people think hold them up and why they're not being successful or why they can't be on YouTube or similar apps are not the reason why. That's not why people get big on those, right, Carson? So it's about your content. It's about what you're sharing, what you're giving as value. That's more important. That's 80% of it. The other 20%, you can polish. You can learn that later. You can get better at your production value, telling your story better, having your visuals be better, your audio become better. But it's just getting out there and getting your message out there. That's what's really important first. So don't worry too much about tech, but you can always learn the basics online and on YouTube, because YouTube, you can learn literally anything. And then the other thing to be aware of as far as that I tell people if they want to get into content is you have to get over that idea. Like I asked Carson, like for him and me, maybe it wasn't that hard. We're a little more outgoing people, and maybe we're a little bit peculiar and strange where we don't mind having people see our face. But if you do have to get over that idea of like talking to the camera or to an audience and having your face out there. Some people get freaked out by the internet having your likeness and your personality on there. And if you want to be like a Ron Swanson and be a hermit somewhere in the mountain range, then yeah, YouTube's not for you.
If you are a Ron Swanson, welcome. But how did you find us? Like, what series of events brought you here? I want to know.
If you're Ron Swanson, please come on our episode. We'd love to have you on the show. If you are. Definitely. Okay, so we talked about some of the scary stuff. I don't want to scare people away. The last things, Carson, I wanted to bring up are the benefits and why we do this, why we create content, right?
Ooh, yes.
Right. Like what is for you, Carson, why do you create content? Why did you pitch to me to do the podcast? Like, what is it about that you think is so fulfilling about this?
I found the best way to explain this is to kind of like give a little bit of context, but I know a lot of people have asked like, well, what's the point of me doing it? Everyone else is doing the same thing. And I agree. Referring back to like gaming on YouTube, for instance, thousands of them, thousands of people who are successfully doing that. Of course, it's a very saturated market. A lot of things are. And that's the real question I'm asking is, why should I jump into a saturated market and expect that I could potentially see success? I would counter that with the answer to Tanner's question being that, one, you're a creative. Creatives will know that if you're not doing something to fulfill that creativity, it's like an itch in the back of your head that you just have to scratch. You have to do something about it. And yet, if you ignore it, it just bugs you. The second part of that being nothing, and I mean nothing, is ever a stale market. That is constant circulation There's always something being done. Vinyl records, they're still a thing. If anything, they grew more popular over the last decade. Same with YouTubers. We talked about people who are retiring out of the circulation. Automatically opens up new venues for you to be able to find your way through and secure yourself a spot and an audience. I mean, for crying out loud, even giant companies don't stand forever. I mean, you look at Disney and all the conglomerates that it's consumed, and then it's just had its least successful year in decades. And you have all these alternative sources of, big movie media popping up, like Angel Studios or Ben Key Entertainment. It's always in circulation. So don't ever think that we have enough painters, because soon those painters will die and we will need new painters to take their place. It goes for any market. It goes for any industry. Don't psych yourself out.
Are you declaring war? Are you threatening every painter out there, Carson, right now that they're going to die?
That's it. I'm throwing hands. I'm throwing hands. All you Instagram painters who turn around with your painting, I'm calling you out.
Reporting Carson to the FBI. He's seeking genocide on all artists that have been. Just kidding. Yeah, I 100% agree with you, Carson. I think there's always an angle to take. There's always a position you can find, a service or a niche that's not being served in any of these platforms or markets, and you can take advantage of that. And there's always a way in. So never feel like it's too saturated. Oh, it's too late. Oh, I wish I got on YouTube a decade ago. It's like, yeah, well, don't you wish a decade from now you wish you got on a decade earlier, which is today? So just never make the excuse that tomorrow is the day to do it when you just got started today. So great thought. Yeah. So I'm going to get a little less about the creative side about what the benefits are and talk about the actual financial benefits, right? So first one I like to say is, make it rain. There is a financial incentive for doing this, right? I mean, these platforms are some of the most powerful, largest, profitable conglomerates, enterprises we've seen in 100 years. Yeah. So these tech companies are probably some of the most profitable conglomerates we've ever seen in the last 100 years. They are so powerful and big, and they want more eyeballs. They want to, and so they have a reason and incentive to pay these creators that bring people to their platforms. That's why YouTube did the whole creator program, right? And there's many more to come that will continue to try to incentivize and pull to come to their platform. And those who get eyeballs, and not so that's the first thing, right? So there is a real incentive for these big platforms to bring you, to just pay you to make videos, just like back a couple decades before YouTube, they would pay networks, or networks would pay programmers to make content to bring eyeballs for entertaining them. So what a great thing. So to entertain people or to inform them, to bring them onto the websites or to on these platforms, you get paid for that. So that's the first thing. The other way that's awesome is if you get audiences, you build communities, you also will end up, if you get large enough, if you get followings, whatever niche you're in, you're going to have plenty of other endorsers, products, advertisers that want to host as well and want to sponsor you. So in the forms of sponsorships or product placements, there are, in fact, for most of the largest creators, the ad revenue that comes from AdSense with YouTube is actually like 1/10 of their actual earnings. So Mr. Beast and Mark Rober and all the biggest YouTubers out there and TikTokers, most of the time they're making buckets more of cash because of the products they get to have with their videos or the plugs they have or the sponsorships. That's where they make a lot of their money, or products they're selling themselves, right? So again, that's kind of a two thing, but within one is there is a real financial reason to be doing this and to be on there. However, it should not be the only reason you want to get on to do content, because there's a lot of other ways you can make more money faster than to do YouTube. So it is a great reason. It is something that's real. And I have had clients that have started from zero and are now making 5-6 figures every month because of doing YouTube, on YouTube alone. It's very real. It happens, right? Second one I would say is there's a real benefit to building a community, especially if you have followers and you have people, you can build relationships and network and have opportunities come to you that otherwise you would not. It's kind of a reason why we're doing this podcast, right? So we realize and understand, as anyone should, that when you create content, you're giving value to people or to your audience. You in turn are able to gain a lot of value for your business, yourself, your organization, in the form of getting attention, getting out there, putting your name forward, and becoming recognized as whatever it is you're trying to do in the space you're in. So, but that community, that network you can build, it can be very powerful. How many YouTubers do you hear about that they made connections with that changed their life because they were online, because they, Dogface, this guy from Idaho Falls, how else would he get a deal from Ocean Spray or meet Snoop Dogg or, be on music videos and whatnot and be in a Vivint smart home ad that I saw? It's like he would never have done that had he not gotten himself out there in the first place. So networks are powerful and they're really important. And then the third thing, and maybe it's the most, we're creatives on this podcast, so it's the warm and fuzzy feeling when we say this, but it is truly, truly fulfilling to create content and to do it. And I would love to see the day for me to be able to create content and do what I love doing and have that be able to pay for the bills and provide for my family. And because that's like a super fulfilling job. There's a reason why I think the number one most wanted job from kids today is to be YouTubers and TikTokers, is because that to them looks like the most fun. Like YouTubers can have a ton of fun doing what they love doing, and they can be incredibly successful at it. But it's fun. It's extremely fun. And so I'll ask you this question, Carson. I ask everyone that looks to get into YouTube or content online. If you did this for 3 years and you made $0 off of like any revenue or deals or brand sponsorships, you didn't get any of those, would you still feel like it's fulfilling and makes sense for you to still do it anyway?
I think I have a bit of a benefit on this question, having done it for about, I want to say 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Even if I've never seen a dime come out of it, in the end, I'm glad I've made it. It gives me the chance to not only express myself creatively, but to also, put my 2 cents out there, to have a little bit of influence in the world in a way that I don't think I would have been able to do normally. It is fulfilling to me, and I wouldn't want to give that up for anything, the chance to be creative.
And that, if you can say that, if you can answer it, maybe not quite as powerful or as vindictively as Carson did, then I would say, even if you're like half of what Carson was, or like a quarter of that kind of great response, then I think you should be able to do it. You should do it. If you find any sort of joy or fulfillment in creating content, even if it meant you didn't make any money off of it, then that alone means you should do it, because the opportunity that could arise from you truly passionately and enjoying creating content online, the investment to potential payout or the potential of what it could be are huge. And the barrier to start and the investment that it takes for you as a creator are so minimal, right? So it's like kind of a no-brainer. So that's why I asked that question, is to say, if you never made a single dime off of it and it still felt like it was fulfilling, even, I don't know if it took you as long as, 6 years or whatever, but if it was even a year of doing it and trying really hard at it, then for sure do it, because you could still have an opportunity of making it financially profitable.
In the end, I guess the biggest question you have to ask yourself is, are you mice or are you men? I won't say which one's the positive, because that's subjective, but are you a mouse or are you a man? Will you create or will you watch what's created?
That is the question. Hopefully you answer, you will create, you will do it. There's a lot more obviously to this, and we hope in our future episodes to kind of help address that and to help give you more insight. We're obviously, it's kind of like a first pep talk of having you get into it. There's obviously a lot more that I think we can help glean in that, and we're still learning, obviously, and we're kind of trying to share as we go on our own journey of creating content. But what we hope from this episode is that you kind of get a little bit of that prick in your heart, or that little pep in your step, little push, little shove forward to get you in the right direction to start it.
Well, thank you all so much for listening to this episode of KinoCast. We appreciate you coming and joining us. Please make sure to join us next time.
Thanks for watching or listening.